Good afternoon, this is Children's BBC at 4:15. Have we finally got rid of Ed? Has he gone to Cubs? Because I'll get most worried. Yeah, sorry. Get on with the menu. Well, listen, amongst other things this afternoon, after the new Yogi Bear show, there's a brand new, quick sign, a brand new series of the Really Wild Show. And amongst other things, they'll be in search of Dr. Spock-shaped ears. Now look at mine. Think I've got Dr. Spock ears? Nah, not at all. Anyway, there's news round, of course, and at 5:10, another episode of Grange Hill. But right now, Boggart, Sandwich, and nothing else. Was that all right? Yeah, Boggart.
The summer sun rose early and shone brightly on the Tweedale modern housing estate for the comfortably well-off. Tweedale was full of big new houses, all of them wishing they felt as comfortable as the little cottages in old Tweedale village. The sun twinkled on their coach lamps, sparkled on the bubbly glass of their big bay windows, bounced off the bonnets of their smart cars, and glinted smugly on one or two private swimming pools. Only when it came to Willow Lodge, otherwise known as 3 Tweedley Dean, did the sun lose confidence. Fifi Papa Headingley was only just crawling out of her bed, and there was no point in beaming like a smiley badge till Fifi decided what mood she was in. Fifi's parents, Peter and Rita Papa Headingley, felt the same way. They knew they had to give Fifi everything she wanted, when she wanted it, exactly how she wanted it, or suffer the consequences. Breakfast time was terrifying. Fifi made the rules, and Fifi could change the rules. You only had to give her the wrong spoon or the cup without the rabbits on, and the sun wouldn't shine all day. Peter and Rita Papa Headingley held their breath as Fifi ran downstairs, still wearing her cuddly fun cutie bear pyjamas, and sat at the table. It was the right seat! So far, so good. And the knife! It was the right knife! Not the little one she could handle easily, but the big heavy one she liked to keep dropping. Rita picked it off the floor a couple of times, and then trembled a little as Fifi grabbed her soldiers of toast and peered at them closely. It looked like trouble, but no, the toast was still warm, and the butter had been spread not too thick, not too thin, to the exact edge of each individual slice. Not only that, Fifi's boiled egg, chopped clean across the top with a knife and never messily smashed on the head with a spoon, had just the right softness of yolk and a hard white without any dribbly glucky yuck. Just as she finished the last mouthful, the sun decided it was safe to carry on shining. Peter decided he could safely read the paper before he left to work at the advertising agency. Rita even decided to plan the dance class she ran on Tuesday afternoons. And then it was Fifi's turn to decide. I want some beans! Fifi's father froze in the middle of the sports page, threw his paper into the air, and ran to the kitchen. I'll get you some. I'll get you some right away. Your father's getting you some, repeated Rita nervously. I want some beans now, whined Fifi. Yes, now, right away, right now. Daddy will be probably heating them up right now. No, he wasn't. Daddy was running very fast to the little grocer's shop in Old Tweedle village. He arrived hot and pink and breathless and pushed to the front of the queue, elbowing aside Mrs. Halibut Discovery Fortescue, who would never speak to him again. I'm sorry, it's an emergency. Beans, any beans, quickly. Back indoors, the temperature was rising. Mummy, where's my beans? They're coming. I'm hungry. You can't be that hungry. You've just eaten your breakfast. That was where Rita was mistaken. I can be as hungry as I want to be, declared Fifi. And then, after a slight sniff and a moan, I'm starving hungry because you don't give me enough to eat, and I'm going to tell my granny from Gosley. Rita screamed and ran into the kitchen. Peter, the beans, quickly! Peter wasn't there, but Rita could see him legging it down the lane. She flung open the kitchen window and yelled out to him, The beans, the beans! Peter leapt over the fence and threw the beans through the window. Rita caught them, opened the tin with her magno-electric opener, threw the beans into a bowl, threw the bowl into a microwave, waited for the bleep, then ran with the bowl into the breakfast room. She felt like throwing the beans at Fifi, but she put them down in front of her and said, There you are, nice hot beans in your bowl with the little ponies round the edge. Fifi should have been happy, but somehow she looked a bit peeved. I want to eat them with a spoon. My birthday spoon with a red handle. Rita pulled it out from behind her back. I thought you would. Fifi sulkily spooned a few beans up to her lips, and then spat them out. There! She cried, throwing her tomato saucy spoon onto the clean tablecloth. These are foggety, funny-faced fun beans. The sun went and hid behind a cloud. "Whatever the boss wants," groaned Peter. Fifi thought he might be making fun of her, so she started to cry. "I don't want beans anymore." "What do you want?" asked Rita. Fifi wasn't sure yet, but her performance was in full swing. The crying got louder and louder till it turned into a screaming fit. The screaming fit turned into a throwing fit, and once she'd broken her cup with the bunnies and chipped her bowl with the ponies, there was no turning back. "You'll never let me have what I want," she shouted. "I hate you, and I'm going to hold my breath now until I choke." Fifi went red, and then blue, and then purple, while Peter and Rita jumped up and down and pulled their hair out. "You can have anything you like," cried Peter. "Yes, anything," insisted Rita. Fifi took a deep breath. "Anything? You promised?" Well, yes, within reason," mumbled Peter pitifully. Fifi looked him in the eye. "Granny from Goosley says it's the wickedest thing in the world to break a promise to a little child." We promised, and we meant it," said Rita quickly. "Sugar toasted honey crunch munch flakes," said Fifi. Munch flakes were sent for, and munch flakes arrived. Fifi tasted the munch flakes. "Too soggy." "But the honey crunch munch flakes," gasped Peter. "Cuddly fun cutie bears love them. Yum, 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 yum." "Cuddly fun cutie bears detest them. Yuck, yuck, yuck," shouted Fifi. "You promised I could have what I like, and now you won't let me." Peter telephoned the office to say he might be late. Fifi had an inspiration. "Kippers." "You hate kippers," said Rita. "I want to see if I still hate them as much," said Fifi. Peter came back with the best Aberdeen kippers from the best fishmongers in town, and Fifi found that she hated them just as much as she ever did. Next door's cat Jubilee, on the other hand, had a mid-morning snack of a lifetime, and then Fifi went into top gear. "I want spaghetti bolognese, Peking spare ribs, and curried spinach and potato." Peter had just come from town, so he slumped on the sofa, while Rita trailed around Mario's Italian restaurant, the Sang Sang Chinese, and the Tandoori. While she was away, Fifi made her father read to her out of the Blue Ribbon Guide to Top Nosh for Top Toffs. Well, there were so many descriptions and full-colour pictures of mouth-watering and expensive dishes that by the time all her meals had arrived, Fifi had completely changed her mind. Rita and Peter ate the takeaways for their lunch. Peter phoned his office to say he wouldn't be in that day at all, and Fifi gave out her latest orders. "I want raw shark and lobster eggs, oysters with caviar and champagne sauce, followed by kiwi sorbet with fresh guava." "No, no," moaned Rita. "Yes, yes," screamed Fifi, "or I'll tell Granny from Goosley on you." Peter drove off to the distant city to fetch special food and a special cook to cook it. Fifi wouldn't eat, she wouldn't sleep, she wouldn't listen to stories. All she would do was scream all the time and threaten to phone her Granny from Goosley if they didn't bring her just what she liked. Next morning, Peter came back with a chef dressed all in white with a special hat. The chef spent 6 hours in the kitchen with Peter and Rita to help him, and finally the special meal was served up to Fifi on a special silver plate. The chef stood proudly and waited. Fifi tasted it and said it tasted of catsick. The chef shouted a lot of words in French before he left, but Fifi didn't care. She'd found another book called The Galloping World Explorer's Guide to Far-Out Food. Peter phoned the office to say he wouldn't be in for the rest of the week. Next day, Peter was flying to Australia to find some live witchetty grubs. Fifi thought the witchetty grubs were quite nice, but she didn't like the way they wriggled around in her mouth. Rita went on safari to hunt aardvark in Africa. Fifi thought it tasted too much like cold spam fritters. Peter came back from South America with an alligator. Fifi decided to keep that as a pet and let it swim around in her cuddly fun cutie bear paddling pool. The house filled up with rejected food, but nothing they found would please her. Peter telephoned work to say he wouldn't be in next week either, and his boss told him not to bother coming back ever. "We've spent all our money trying to please you," said Rita. "You've got to eat something, Fifi." "There's nothing I've got to do," cried Fifi. "It's up to you to find me what I like, or I'll phone Granny." Fifi's parents had finally had enough. "Go on then," said Peter, thrusting the phone at her. "See if we care. Phone your Granny from Goosley and tell her just how badly we treat you." Fifi snatched the phone, but before she could dial a number, the front door flew open. "Granny's here," announced a strong, clear voice from the hall. There was a rustling and bustling, and then into the room swept a short, slightly dumpy figure, dressed in a long yellow tweed frock, a yellow cape, yellow boots, and a green hat with what looked like a bundle of dried grass tied to it for decoration. "You're not my Granny from Goosley," gasped Fifi. "No," said the Granny. "I'm your Granny from Wormslow." I didn't know I had a granny from Wormslow, said Fifi. We didn't know you had a granny from Wormslow, said Peter. Well, you know now, said the granny. I've just come to warn you that if you carry on like this, Hobfrost will get you. What's Hobfrost? Said Fifi defiantly. Hobfrost is a Boggart. A magical Boggart who knows how to deal with a fusspot, said Granny. Fifi didn't care for being talked to like this. I'm not frightened of Boggarts or any other creature, she shouted defiantly. I'll have it in a sandwich. Fifi was mightily pleased at her own cleverness. Yes, that's what I like to eat. Boggart sandwich and nothing else. Well, that's easily arranged, said Granny from Wormslow. I happen to have brought some Hobfrost sandwiches with me. I won't finish them if I don't like them, said Fifi suspiciously. Oh, you'll like them, said Granny from Wormslow. She took some sandwiches from her pocket and handed one over. Fifi sniffed at it and gave it a little nibble. It was delicious, like nothing else she'd ever tasted. She gave it a big bite, then crammed it into her mouth and reached for another one, and then she stopped, with open mouth and eyes wide. Something wrong, said Granny from Wormslow. You'll appreciate, of course, that Hobfrost is a straw Boggart. Fifi hadn't appreciated it, but she did now because the sandwich had turned into straw in her mouth. She ran to get a glass of water to wash it out, but the water turned into straw as well. Fifi was terrified, but she couldn't speak for the straw. Rita and Peter were frightened too. Don't worry, said Granny. There's always a cure for a Hobfrost Boggart sandwich, but she'll have to try all the food round here till she finds it. It took hours. It wasn't the aardvark, it wasn't the witchetty grubs, it wasn't lobster eggs or champagne sauce. Every kind of food and drink turned to straw in her mouth until there was nothing left to try. Fifi sat at the table with tears rolling down her cheeks. I think she's learnt a lesson now, said Rita. Aye, said Granny, but have you? Yes, I'm sure we have, said Rita. Tell us what the cure is, said Peter. It can't be in this house, said Rita. We've tried everything. Not quite everything, said Granny from Wormslow, and she pointed across to the windowsill, where the sun shone confidently on a chipped bowl with ponies round the edge, containing quite a few baked beans. They were Fogarty's Funny Face Fun Beans, now very cold and very old.
The Boggart Who Wouldn't Tell Her Story is tomorrow's story, Jack and Ori's story, at 4:25. Now, in the Really Wild Show today, the new Really Wild Show, something I've always wanted to do is go swimming with a dolphin, and Terry actually gets a chance to do it. That is in exactly 7 minutes and 30 seconds after the new Yogi Bear Show.